This is something that I've spent probably close to a year working on it. That's usually my philosophy, is I don't want to teach something until I've been working on it for a year. And it's something that I got, or at least the genesis of the idea is something that I got from watching Damian Maia and his MMA career and how he's passing. BJJ Scout, which is, well, it used to be an awesome YouTube channel. I don't think they post much anymore, but they did a really good breakdown of his passing style. And it very much embodies the idea that we're trying to present here, which is we don't want anyone to be able to establish a guard. And so by tripoding over your opponent, you're going to be able to deny them a lot of access to, again, like you asked about the leg locking stuff previously, any of the guards that somebody wants to establish. We can relatively simply, not easily, disable, dismantle, or just prevent any sort of guard offense. And in terms of the energy expenditure of this, it's extremely efficient. I am a standing, moving around kind of passer. I do a lot of lateral movements, leg drags, toriandos, and I do a lot of rolling kimuras and guillotines in my passing. I had a rotator cuff injury, and then I had, and still do have to a certain degree, a finger injury, so I was not able to control ankles for deflection very well. I certainly wasn't able to control people's legs. It was too difficult on my shoulder. And then for a while I couldn't make grips, and I've been rolling with a boxing glove for a couple months just to be able to train. And this style of passing and focusing on using it as a launching point to get into some other types of passing that I really enjoy doing has been pretty transformational for my style. So much so that after training for a few months, I thought that my cardio was really good because
you could roll forever.
Because I could roll quite multiple rounds and just feel like I'm not that tired. And then I got on the Airdyne bike to check my conditioning, and it turned out my conditioning was absolute trash. I was just being so much more efficient in my rolls, even with advanced guys, with guys at my gym, good black belts, people I roll with all the time. I was still able to sustain a level of output that wasn't really taxing my body. And so this is, I think, hugely important to give you guys as a older, decrepit grappler. I know it can work for you. And so the tripod position, there's really two tripod positions, the high tripod and the low tripod. And so Stephan, if you've got your knees up, you're playing guard, I'm going to enter the tripod by first controlling your ankles just enough that I can step my leg in between your legs, so I can start to basically bring my knee past your thigh. What I want to do is avoid just kind of getting to here where you can set up whatever guard you're going to set up. So whether it's from me doing this or me coming up into this position from some sort of sweep, I want to jam my knee between your thighs.
So if the knee comes past my thighs?
Yeah, that's basically an indicator that I can do this. It doesn't, you don't have to have it, but it's certainly going to make everything a lot easier because it's going to largely prevent this kind of thing. And if this happens, we'll have an answer for it. But what I'm trying to do is get myself here, and then I just basically put my head down. So the tripod position is this sort of thing. Obviously, in MMA, Damian can hit you to help speed the process along and get into underhooks and things like that. What I'm more looking to do is just have hands on the biceps. So somebody's always going to have their frames in. They're always going to have their guard up. So I try to get hands on the biceps and use my forearms. Or, if I can even get wrist grips or hand grips, and I'm just placing my head on my partner's chin, pretty much, and just pinning him into the ground.
How much weight would you like to put on your head relative to your hands and your feet?
Or
are you being gentle with me right now?
I'm being very, very gentle. My weight is going to transfer between here and here as I gain underhooks, because that's really the goal. The goal is to get single or double underhooks and then progress. But I'm pretty much like...
Oh, yeah.
That's a good 60 pounds or something.
Yeah, I can improve the pressure. The more I dislike you, the more weight I'm going to put into my head. But this isn't as much based on heavy crushing pressure as it is based on you not being able to move me. Yeah. So once I get myself kind of pretty stable here, let's just rotate this way. The other aspect of this is that I'm really trying to block this knee. So I'll be moving myself to here. My goal is to win the underhook with my right arm. But even if I can't, my other goal is just to block this leg down. So I'm trying to lock out. And this is a agnostic, gi, no gi kind of approach. In the gi, you can certainly grip the pants to help you drive the leg down. You can certainly come into this with a pant grip like this and just do that and lock out. But you can also do it just as well in no-gi. And I mostly use it in no-gi because I roll no-gi a lot more just to preserve my hands. I love rolling in the gi. I wish I could do it more. But I can do this or I can do this, and it's roughly the same. It's a little bit easier to win the underhook in no-gi just because it's slippery. There's just less friction. But basically the passes are pretty much the same. I'm not overly worried of submissions, guard attacks. In the gi, if somebody did have the potential of a loop choke, I certainly wouldn't be diving my head into this space. But other than that, right, as long as...
So if I don't have a loose grip on your
Yeah,
collar,
exactly. This would not be the time to do this, but that's probably the only real major distinction between the two is this grip. I would break this grip first, and then I would put my head here.
So question about the head positioning. If you're talking about if you like me versus if you don't like me. If you don't like me, you're putting it directly on the chin and driving up.
Well, I'm putting my head there either way. If I don't like you, I'm just going to lean on you a hell of a lot more. So rather than just be a stable platform to induce you to just kind of push in a futile effort to move me, I would actually be trying to drive. We call it a Pez dispenser at our academy. This idea of driving my head up through your chin to try to move you. I don't have to do that. I don't have to make you miserable. I don't have to make you as miserable as possible. I can make you just miserable enough, and this can still work. So definitely if you're on the huskier side, I would recommend, out of respect to your training partners, or just wanting to get along with people at the academy, don't try to smash their face into the mat. But you still do want to have some weight there. And as we move into the underhooks, my head is going to move to the side. My shoulder is now going to be under your chin. So you can still put a tremendous amount of pressure down here, even without using your head. You can just do it with your shoulder. So yeah, it's not a requirement that I be trying to absolutely crush you. It's a requirement that I be very stable. And that's, the nature of the tripod position. And then it's a requirement that it be difficult for you to move my head and push my head away, which is, one of the main things you'll be dealing with is people trying to push your head away. But the other thing that we'll be dealing with is in the process of trying to get here, the knee will come in every so often. And depending on especially the relative height between you and your opponent, I'm fairly tall. I may still be able to tripod you if your knee is in the way. But what we want to do is just have a fallback position. And for that, we use the low tripod. So the high tripod is my head being up underneath your chin. The low tripod is my head being kind of basically on your ribs and your hips. So if I'm moving in and you manage to shove me back a little bit, I'm just going to settle down into the same basic position. And, we'll talk about, when we're doing the passes, about where my feet need to be and with the angles and all that kind of stuff. But I'm basically now going to be trying to sort of crush your shoulder, and then I'll be walking around your guard to one side or the other. Or if I don't
crush
feel...
my shoulder, crush my ribs.
Crush your ribs with my shoulder, or crush your hip with my shoulder. In the gi, this is a very strong position because if we rotate around... So this is, again, the major distinction. For the most part, there's not a lot of difference, but the grip that I can make on the belt here and the degree to which I can close my elbow allows me to really prevent any hip movement. Whereas in no-gi, I'm just kind of cupping your hip and closing my elbow. So if you move your hip around a little, you see you've got a lot more freedom of motion. So the loop choke is a concern coming into the high tripod, only in the sense that you just don't be foolish. But the low tripod position is a fair bit stronger in terms of preventing hip movement in the gi. So those are minor things. I use this with pretty much equal success, gi and no gi. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, just those two notes. And so we'll basically be moving between the high tripod and the low tripod. For the most part, we will be using the high tripod unless somebody is either physically stronger or quite a bit longer height-wise than you. It is actually able to funnel you into the low tripod. I, as a taller grappler, don't find myself in the low tripod very often against anybody my size, my weight, like that kind of thing. It's really just, it's Rory who's just tall as fuck and has abnormally long femurs, or it's guys who are like 40, 50 pounds heavier than me and can actually just shove me down. And even in the instance of someone trying to shove you down, we're going to have an answer that doesn't involve utilizing pressure, where we're going to change to movement. But again, we'll talk about that throughout the series. So this is the tripod, the low tripod, and the high tripod. And I love this shit, so I hope you enjoy it.